do the Iranians especially, nor do Israelis, nor do any normal American civilian want war. But the point is, there would be no major advantage outside of ego, which I don't think Donald Trump is using as a weapon, but there would be no other advantage other than to maybe build popular morale and support after an even worse event that justifies the attack, is what I'm saying. You're only giving your enemy time. And if I was in Trump's position, which I'm not, I wouldn't want to give our enemy any time at all. I would want to throw them off balance with a poker face and hit blindly during the night when they least expected it. It's also important to know it's not like Iran doesn't know it's at war. And it's not like Iran's intelligence doesn't know that they're soon to be under attack. So again, you don't want to give these guys too much time. It would only, in my opinion, give them an advantage. I'm going to go over the three, what I believe to be certain scenarios. I'm going to weigh those possibilities, and then I'm also going to tell you how to prepare. I did post this earlier on Twitter. Thank you very much for following me there. I am certainly grateful for all of you tuning in, and I love you from the bottom of my heart. And I do believe that good days are ahead of us. I do believe Trump will unlock the golden age, as I shared with you yesterday. And I do believe that the greatest moments in American history are yet to come. So I want you to know that I also say this with extreme optimism, which you can't be anything but optimistic. I mean, even as an entrepreneur, somebody who's built all the companies that I've built, along with my father, our team, my members, we've built with optimism. We've built with, even though we might not know exactly how the future turns out, there's a high predictability of where things are headed. And the rest, of course, we leave in God's hands. As I also said yesterday before I go over the scenarios, that this is in God's hands. And God, whether you like Trump or not, placed Donald Trump in power to make this very specific call. And so let him make the call. I'm sure you wouldn't want to make the call. I would not want to make the call. So the three possible scenarios for Iran are the following. One, which is the least likely, Trump brokers suddenly a last-minute peace deal with Tehran. They broker peace. It's a complete wild card, but like the tariff mania we saw a few months ago, all of a sudden there is a peace deal on the table. A ceasefire commences, all is good. Israel and Iran rebuild. Now, I don't see that happening at all because the United States and Israel are far too invested at this point. There's been far too much destruction. And quite literally, we have now 3 fleets, from what I studied earlier this morning, in the region preparing for a strike. So we have 2 strike groups, which were the USS Vinson, the USS Nimitz, which is soon to be decommissioned. Many people believe could be a sitting duck, or a false FLAG Gulf of Tonkin USS Liberty type scenario. And then now a 3rd strike group, each making up, I think, 12 different ships with each strike group. So again, you don't move all your chips at the poker table, go all in, and then not use it. That would be rare. It's a remote possibility, least likely. And if that happened, crypto, the stock market would temporarily skyrocket. There'd be a massive pump and a sigh of relief. But I don't think that it would stop there. Again, that would accomplish none of the military strategic goals of Israel or the United States as its ally long-term at all. It would only prolong the inevitable again to another scenario where we're going to be faced probably with the same situation that we're currently in. So it's very, very unlikely. And I actually do think it's the wrong move, to be honest. As controversial as that sounds, I do believe that war is guaranteed, necessary, and it's why I believe Donald Trump's going to make the call to strike. Number 2 is the most likely scenario that I'm personally betting on, which I've been telling you is happening and I believe will happen soon. And that is imminent strikes hit Iran, primarily taking out their nuclear facilities and proliferation sites, decapitating the regime, and then allowing what they tell the American people and the world at large is not a coup and not a full regime change, but a democratic movement to install the leader that the Iranians prefer. But really, it'll be a soft coup influenced by the United States, just not a hard one. So they'll sell it, and the mainstream media will say, no, a new democratic leader has been elected, kind of like Zelensky, right, in Ukraine. even though the United States placed Zelensky there. He's a White House puppet. He is a puppet of the deep state. So I think something similar along those lines, but they sell it as a democratic event, but after you toppled and destroyed everything, and most of the Iranian leadership has already left, defected, or been taken out by force. That's the most likely event. Imminent strikes, the U.S. attempts to limit civilian damage, which is why I believe from a humanitarian perspective, Trump and King Bibi, Benjamin Netanyahu, have allowed ample time for Tehran, 15 million near citizens, to flee the capital before they possibly hit any other locations, which, if you're going to war, is the best possible thing you could do for human life, even though that there's going to be inevitably a loss of it. This, of course, will, I think, cause a lot of obvious short-term volatility, probably get a crypto stock market correction, could be a big one, but it'll eventually be bought and it'll be followed up by what I believe Donald Trump has guaranteed. His unlocking, as he mentioned in his congressional speech, the golden age, a massive hysteria super pump, a huge move into Bitcoin, crypto, real world assets, eventual rate cuts by Jerome Powell, even though he hasn't cut yet, massive money printing, massive debt, massive hyperinflation, and transition into the new genius system, which was just passed by the Senate and will soon be authorized by the president. All part of the plan. I've been sharing this with you for years. I predicted it. I actually positioned you for it, and I told you exactly how to profit from it for near 15 years, telling you to buy Bitcoin from well under 1,000, positioning you, of course, with the Island Project with a no bank debt portfolio. By the way, interest rates don't affect Island Project at all. We have no bank debt. I was noticing people like Grant Cardone and others are really coming down hard on Powell, following up Donald Trump's condemnation of Powell not cutting rates, which I do believe are justified. But keep in mind, all these figures carry massive amounts of hyperbolic debt. Like, they're 90% leverage with all their companies. They have massive, huge liquidity issues and huge adjustable interest only and interest rate payments that keep skyrocketing as a result of this Pigs Nation style collapse. So, a lot of those other business models are teetering on the verge of disaster. Like, if Powell doesn't cut soon, they could go bankrupt. And I think we'll actually see that probably with many of those companies. Again, we don't have any bank debt because we already prepared for bond collapse. We already prepared for world war. And we already prepared for the great, the reset into the Genius Act era and the crypto Bitcoin transition, which is why we didn't use any bank leverage. So just keep that in mind, that most of Washington, Wall Street, the people you tune into, the companies, they're all just running a Ponzi scheme, essentially, on massive amounts of leverage, debt, and bank loans. So they're very dependent on rates being cut. And all those people, a lot of them are great, and I think do good things, but just keep in mind, they are running very dangerous business models in this type of environment, in my opinion, which is why my father, John, and I designed our portfolio the way that we did, built on rock with no bank debt. That is the most likely scenario. The third scenario is the worst case. This would send us into a Great Depression 2.0. It would include all of the number 2 scenario, but a long, protracted war in the Middle East that would last multiple years, maybe even as long as a decade, would include counterstrikes, proxy events, a full aggressive regime change, troops sent on the ground by Israel and potentially the United States, and it would just be absolute chaos in Iran in the Middle East. The worst of all outcomes, we would have major homeland security issues, if you know what I mean, and in the West, places like Europe. Financial markets would crater. There'd be bumpy and massive volatility. Eventually, after the fallout and huge corrections across risk assets, Wall Street would eventually panic out of the dollar. The bond and fixed income markets would collapse to zero. There would be bank runs. And I still think we'll have bank runs under scenario 2, by the way. And gold, silver, Bitcoin, and real world assets and high-end real estate like what we own will continue to be bought as safe havens, as private ecosystems, and to resist the turmoil and essentially ride out the storm. All three options, all three of them, and I'm personally betting number 2, is what will happen, lead to the same place. Notice that even in a best case scenario with peace declared, all of our crypto bags skyrocket, we get much more rich. Real estate skyrockets, we get much more rich. It's a party like 1929, and the golden age gets unlocked immediately. Decapitation and annihilation of the nuclear facilities and proliferation sites. A soft coup where they pretend it's a democratic leader being installed because the Iranian people want that and they want freedom, but really it's the United States and Israel managing it, driving it. And we have a short-term correction in crypto stocks, followed by a massive golden age unlock super pump. Now, here's why that's the most positive scenario as well, is that then establishes the framework for world peace, right? At least from the perspective of being sold that way to the public. And will create certainty, which markets really like, that a new freedom era and peaceful Middle East is the future, even if it's just the short term. So the markets would just absolutely skyrocket on that news. It would be honestly a renaissance in the golden age that Donald Trump predicted. I actually think that is probably what's going to happen. 3 is the worst because it would drain resources, collapse the empire here in the States, like Tucker Carlson and others have quote, like actually said, would end our empire, quote. And people like Steve Bannon said would bring us into a protracted, long-standing Middle Eastern regional Cold War, World War, that could eventually cost more American lives and lives in aggregate than World War II. Casualty counts would be huge too. So it'd be a terrible scenario. But even in that scenario, what will perform and what will be the safe haven? The same buckets that I've been telling you to buy for years. Crypto, Bitcoin, gold, silver, real world assets, especially the high end with no bank debt they're not making any more of, that are highly, highly specialized and are also used as private ecosystems of the elites, just like art. You know, in the high-end art markets, high-end art's trading for tens of millions of dollars, you know, in good and bad environments as stores of value. The elites just move their money outside of crumbling banking infrastructure into assets they control, that they can cash flow on, and they can also get some use out of, but it's really just a bank. So those are the 3 scenarios. As I titled this video, I believe unimaginable strikes are ahead. Also, I do believe we will get some kind of cyber event, which the elites have already warned of. You'd have to be a fool not to see that coming. Could happen sooner rather than later. Might even be used as justification for Trump's strikes, which might be why he's waiting. It'll be blamed on Iran, of course. And then the mainstream media will parrot that and that shock and awe and that pandemonium and that crisis 24/7 like it's Armageddon. And I guarantee you, if Americans are against the war now, disproportionately, almost all Americans will support it after their bank accounts and their cell phones and their internet go down. There's not going to be a single American sheep who will not support war and the attack on Iran after the grid goes down. Everyone will say they want war reluctantly, but everyone will support it. Just like the emergency events, which were all choreographed and pre-planned in 2020, most are just going along with it because they're in an emergency and they don't know what else to do. And again, the elites are very good at managing just not the psychological footprint of all of this, but the psychology around it. And then, of course, moving the sheep where they want the sheep to go. The sheep are being pushed to war. So just understand this. So it's a very simple playbook, very easy to understand, very, very predictable. As I also think I already mentioned, but I wanted to reemphasize, if Trump didn't strike, let's say he goes with option 1, which we see a lot of people advocating for now, which I actually don't think is the right move. I honestly don't. I want peace, but I don't think that there's any option, at least at this stage, with the options Donald Trump has on his table. But it would make Trump look incredibly weak, and if he didn't act, and honestly only increase national security risks, our interest here on the homeland, and our allies and Israel. And so in my view, there really is no other alternative but to strike. I don't care what people have to say and how much anti-war rhetoric that there is and how good that sounds. And although it sounds good on paper. The cold, hard reality is the United States and Israel are already too far in to the war. So why stop, right? What, you're going to stop, declare peace, rebuild all the infrastructure damaged, and then just be at war with them again, and then allow them to continue to, like, there'd be no reason to stop now. And our national security advisors will also tell you that Iran has proven not to live up to the expectations that the U.S. has had, whether you agree or not, with the nuclear deals we've struck with them in the past. They've only proven to continue to proliferate. So again, it makes no logical sense, just totally objectively speaking, outside of the politics, not to act. It would actually be a stain on the president, I believe. And it would make him look incredibly, incredibly weak. And it would honestly increase security risks, I believe, here at home and also abroad in the short term, medium and long term. So again, you have to understand that whether you agree or not, and I'm not saying I'm, pro-war, because I'm not, but I'm just putting it out there that, these are long-term geopolitical strategies in play right now. Like, they're not one-off events. They're not isolated. This has been going on for a very, very long time. So I did want to mention that option 3 is also the most dangerous, because that would only provoke China and Russia a lot more significantly than option 2. They're already going to be provoked with option 2. So they may or may not decide to, for example, to attack Taiwan sooner rather than later. Russia could make another different type of move on the war front in Ukraine. And there could be some other outlier that's unpredictable that we don't know about. Maybe some kind of skirmish with Pakistan, India, or something like that that's thrown onto the table that's provoked militarily by America's enemies and by the East. With option 2 and option 3, obviously China and Russia, this affects their national security footprint, so they're not going to be happy with any of it. So we are entering a much more dangerous era, for sure. But the best case scenario would it be contained. New leadership would be installed, and then hopefully there would be peace and things could go along as, quote unquote normal, whatever that is. I mean, things have been far from normal the last several decades. My father and I always joke about this, like, we're not even going to be surprised if, like, Godzilla starts climbing a building in Manhattan at this point. Like, every day gets more crazy. Every year is more insane. And I share this with you too. I always wear my heart on my sleeve, but I told you that Donald Trump's second term would be chaos. And that doesn't mean I don't like Trump, because I do, but, like, you can't expect anything different. His first presidency was the most chaos-driven presidency in 4 years I'd ever seen. I mean, total lockdowns, pandemoniums, diapers across everyone's faces. I mean, the panic and hysteria and the toilet paper runs, like, you were an idiot if you thought Trump was going to get in for the next 4 terms and things would just be peaceful. Like, dude, it's going to be nuts. So it shouldn't be a surprise that we're in World War III. I told you that we would be, and that's where we are. And even objectively speaking, for Donald Trump to truly make America great again and counter decades long of our borders being wide open and the wokeness of the left, and, to swing that pendulum back to, like, old school America, dude, that's not going to happen, like, peacefully. That's going to be like an abrupt, complicated, complex, very damaging, disruptive event, not something that just happens in a streamlined format. As we're seeing with the ICE raids, the deportations, the militarization of the United States, the transferring of the dollar into new cryptocurrencies, the establishment of the Genius Act, like, all of it's going to be chaos. On the positive side, chaos and disruption actually means you can make a lot of money. In fact, I would say from a totally, like, optimistic, positive standpoint, you can get richer in this environment than you ever could in American history. Because when things are good and peaceful and predictable, it's tough to make money. There's no water moving back and forth. There's no opportunities. There's no major disruption. But with the dollar collapsing, the bond market collapsing, and the reset here, and hyperinflation taking root, as we transfer to a new system, there's tons of opportunities to really profit in significant ways that you would never have had the opportunity before. Even 2008-09, which was a train wreck and wiped a lot of people out, that was the time to buy. That was the time to actually get rich. And I know a lot of people that got very wealthy actually because of that event. People that bought real estate, investment properties today hold like dozens of homes in their portfolio that are almost all paid off by now, that they just have tenants in that they bought dirt cheap prior to the massive hyperinflation that was spurred by 2020 and all of the debt in the central bank, what I believe is criminal activity over the last several decades as a private institution, creating infinite bailouts and printing all this debt into infinity. So what I'm saying is that even though things look bad, there's tons and more opportunity than there ever has been in the history of the world. So don't lose sight of that and don't think things are all negative. Again, I'm betting on the golden age. I really truthfully am. I'm betting Donald Trump's going to pull this off. But I do not believe that we're going to be sitting around 2 weeks later before Trump makes a decision. I think this is just his poker face. And we also need to notate that the most predictable outcome is the most entertaining, as we hear people like Elon Musk and others say. And so if we ask ourselves what would be the most entertaining, well, the most dramatic thing we could possibly think of. And the most dramatic thing we could possibly think of is actually what I'm telling you is happening now, option 2. And Donald Trump will pull the trigger and he will press the red button. And there may or may not be more events in Israel and the United States and false events prior, but it'll only be used to woo the American people to the inevitable as it's already been decided. Again, if you want to be philosophical about it, I always tell you, does your vote really count? Not really. I mean, it's not like you could stop the war if you wanted to. It's not like you could have stopped the policy of the lockdowns in 2020. You can disobey. You cannot comply. You can take action, move your money and your assets into the places you want to move them within reason, but that's about it. You have no control over the decision that's actually already been made. It's already been made. And so Donald Trump knows exactly what he's doing. And I believe, like I said yesterday, we should pray for him and ultimately understand it's God's will because God put him in power to make this call. So at the end of it all, we must have faith, allow Donald Trump, he's going to do it anyways, make the call. And I always believe that you should position for the best case scenarios, massive offense, and also prepare for the worst. You do both. You prepare for the worst, but you prepare also for massive offense. I've told many of you this for years. Again, if I wasn't playing massive offense in Bitcoin and crypto with my real estate holdings, et cetera, I wouldn't be rich. It's because I'm playing massive offense and then never quitting. Always pivoting, leveraging, and profiting, always using ingenuity, inventiveness, changing, shifting with the rising tides. And so being in that way is going to be very advantageous for you. Even as an entrepreneur, the secret of great entrepreneurship is to not have a fixed plan, to actually have a plan that can evolve a little bit, move around a little bit, pick up opportunities that maybe you didn't see before, and amplify opportunities that you find along the way. A great book I honestly encourage you to read, even though he's an extremely controversial figure, but my income did 10x after reading it, I've said it many times before, was the book 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. And I've been telling you about Peter Thiel for decades, that he would be the most influential figure in world history. Now he's like the top of the Bilderberg group. I told you that he would influence all future elections, technology, Bitcoin, crypto. I told you guys to buy Palantir when it IPO'd. I told you to buy Bitcoin under 1,000. So again, whether you like or dislike these people, learn from them, understand who's in charge, who's running things, and understand this really is an opportunity. And this really is an opportunity. So I love you guys, and I appreciate all your prayers. Thank you so much. Thank you for praying for baby Faith as well. Please keep praying. I'm praying for all of you, and I encourage you, take action. Plan for the worst, but also plan for the best. Get on offense and do it with the winning team and the good guys that have already built it here at the Digital Noah's Ark at islandproject.com. 150 units minimum to get in. You own a no bank debt asset, completely diversified. It includes now 6, but soon to be 13 properties, our 13 colonies. You can actually use, enjoy, stay, You get all the 100% equity rights of traditional real estate ownership plus all the capital gains. Let's say you have $250,000 with me, or 150 grand, or my early bird investors have 30. Let's say your 30 is worth 100 in 2 years. You just booked a massive gain. You got all the future income distributions, plus some use based on our tiers, plus our ecosystem, plus our 1000X token launch, which is a separate event. It's win-win. There is no downside. I have to see our terms and disclaimers, but as my father and I have told you, there's literally no downside. You only make money, or you hold a no bank debt investment that just grows over time, that's completely diversified, that has no leverage. And it owns this stuff that only goes up. Strategically decentralized in multiple locations, sovereigns, and states. And I'll close with just one last comment on that. A lot of people said things, Christopher, well, I'd invest if you had other investments outside of Hawaii. Well, we do. We bought a massive ski lodge at Park City, Deer Valley. And we're about to buy a massive new estate in Thailand. And we're expanding all over Southeast Asia. So I call your bluff. Again, you can have a winning mindset here. And you can take action to win. And you can prepare for the golden age to pivot, leverage, and profit. Or you can focus on the negative and you can play so much defense that you're only guaranteed to lose. And I'll leave you with a hard truth, whether you want to hear it or not. None of you are getting out of this alive. None of you. None of you. You know, I encourage you to put your faith in God, Jesus Christ, and the eternal. No one's getting out of this alive. So I think it's funny, people play life really conservative. They're like, well, I really want to be careful. You know, I don't want to take too much risk. You know, I got to be really safe. The government says stay safe. Bro, you're going to be dead someday. You do realize you're going to be diagnosed with some kind of terminal illness. You're going to be dead or hit by a bus, God forbid. And I'm praying that doesn't happen to you. But bro, you're not getting out of here alive. I hope you understand that. So if you were waiting for retirement in the future, you probably will never get there. There's no freaking guarantee. You live your life now. You take in every single uncertain moment today. You live like a badass in the moment, the 1000X now. Who knows? Maybe nukes go off, the whole world blows up. Then what? Like, again, none of you are getting out of here alive. I don't care. All these people that are so focused on life extension. This is my final rant. Life extension. They're going to live forever. They're trying to live for 150 years. They don't get any sunlight, even though that's actually really good for you and healthy for you. You know, and they're, you know, only sipping on bottled water or whatever it is. Bro, you ain't getting out of here alive. Do you understand that the time is short and finite? And what we do and how we live our lives passionately in the moment truly does matter. You know, one of the biggest things I'm actually really proud of Island Project, our members, you tuning in, our subscribers, and my father, is how passionately we've built it, and we've defied all the odds. We've done something that truly is a miracle by God. And we've done it with a just tremendous sense of optimism, hope, work ethic, and it's all paid off. And what an incredible journey, because at the end of the day, to me at least, in my view, that's actually what matters, is the ride. The passion for what you do, hitting your success points, achieving your goals, but it's not the trophy that you get at the end. And it's certainly, take it from me, and I have a very high net worth, it's not the net worth. Okay, it's the journey, man. It's the ride. It's doing big things. It's being excited when you wake up in the morning. It's having passion, liberty, and freedom. So you can make the decision how you live your life every single day, and you don't have someone else telling you what to do, which is why and that is certainly fine if you're not built that way. You can have a very successful, great life, you know, working for great companies and working for other people too. But we're all built different. So think different, be different, pray different, and I just told you exactly what's going to happen next. Option 2. Links below. Please like and share. Follow me on X at AMTV Media. I certainly appreciate it, and I will be keeping you posted on what I believe are unfathomable, unconscionable, if I'm saying that correctly, as the cat's got my tongue, and what I believe will be imminent. And to use the word exactly here on June 19th, so we have a record of it, at about 12:57, an unimaginable strike ahead. Love you all. Links below. Call or text my dad at 808-442-2934. That's 808-442-2934. Become a proud owner today of the #1 asset in the world, soon to be tokenized 1000X. God bless.